curious minds, welcome to ProjexCellence ProDigy, where we make project management simple and exciting. I'm Govind, a PMP certified project manager. And if you are passionate about learning practical project management tips, you are in the right place. Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of America, said, "Beware of little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship." In project cost management, every expense counts. Even small costs can add up over time and put the project's budget at risk if they are not closely monitored and managed. Just like a tiny leak can eventually sink a ship, untracked small expenses can lead to big budget problems and might even cause the project to fail. This quote highlights the importance of keeping a close eye on all costs, making sure nothing is overlooked so the budget stays on track and the project runs smoothly. Let's explore this topic in detail. Project cost management is a critical knowledge area in project management that involves the processes required to ensure that a project is completed within the approved budget. It encompasses the planning, estimating, budgeting, financing, funding, managing, and controlling costs so that the project can be completed within the approved budget. There are total 4 processes in project cost management: plan cost management, estimate cost, determine budget, and control cost. Out of these 4, 3 processes fall under planning process group and remaining 1 process fall under monitoring and controlling process group. Plan cost management process is like a blueprint for handling project costs. It lays the groundwork for how a project's financial will be handled from start to finish. This process defines how the project cost will be estimated for all project activities, including resources like labor, material, and equipment. How the overall project budget will be set. How the budget will be broken down across different phases of the project. How cost will be tracked and monitored throughout the project. It outlines the tools and methods for tracking expenses, ensuring that any variances from the budget are spotted early and corrected. This allows the project team to stay within financial limit and address issues promptly. The cost management plan outlines how to manage cost changes, like handling requests for more resources or addressing unexpected costs. Let's say, suppose if a supplier increases the price of equipment mid-project, so the plan provides a framework for revising the cost estimates and budget to handle this increase. This process helps identify potential risk to the budget, like price fluctuation or delays that could increase cost. By planning for these risks in advance, the team can set aside the contingency funds or develop mitigation strategies to protect the budget. Come to the estimate cost. A cost estimate is a way of predicting how much money or resources will be needed to finish a project or activity. It is based on the information available at the time the estimate is made. When estimating costs, it is important to look at different options to find the best or cheapest way to complete the project. For example, should we make a product by ourselves or buy it from someone else? Is it better to buy the equipment outright or lease it for a period of time? Or can we share resources with other projects to reduce the cost? So cost estimates are usually given in a specific currency, sometimes dollars or euros, depends on the country of operation. But sometimes other units like hours of work are used to make the comparison easier, especially if there are currency changes. As the project moves forward and more information becomes available, the cost estimates need to be updated and refined to become more accurate. In the early stages of a project, the estimates might be rough and have a big margin of error, around -25% to +75%. But as the project progresses and more details are known, the estimates become more accurate with a smaller margin of error, -5% to +10%. So estimate includes extra costs as well, like inflation, interest payments, or contingency costs for the unexpected expenses. Determine budget. This process involves finalizing the total project budget and establishing a cost baseline. This cost baseline serves as the approved budget against which actual project performance will be measured throughout the project. The process begins by taking the estimated costs for each individual activity or work package and aggregating them to form the total project budget. This ensures that all costs, whether small or large, are included in the overall financial plan. Once we have cost baseline in place, the project manager can monitor project costs more effectively by regularly comparing actual cost to the baseline. And if any cost overruns or underruns, that can be identified early, which will allow for the timely corrective action. Determined budget process includes the allocation of contingency reserves to cover the identified risk. These reserves are important for managing unforeseen events or changes that may affect project cost without disrupting the overall budget. In addition to contingency reserve, management reserves can be added to the overall budget to cover unknown risk. We call it unknown. These reserves are not part of the cost baseline but are part of the total project budget, providing additional flexibility. Control cost process. This process is crucial for ensuring that a project stays within its approved budget throughout its life cycle. This process involves continuously monitoring the project's financial health by comparing actual cost with the cost baseline. This helps determining whether the project is staying on track financially or if any kind of corrective actions are needed. Through variance analysis, the project manager can identify where actual costs have deviated from the budgeted amounts. These variances help project teams understand where costs are higher or lower than expected and the reason behind the discrepancies. When cost variances occur, changes to the cost baseline may be necessary, of course. So the control cost process ensures that any such changes are properly evaluated, approved, and documented through the change control process. If suppose the solar project encounters delays that increase the labor cost, the project manager might request approval to adjust the cost baseline to reflect this increment on the labor expenses. Earned value management, EVM, is a technique very often we use in the control cost process to provide a more detailed picture of cost performance. So what EVM does, EVM compares the amount of work completed, that is called earned value, with the actual cost and planned cost, which offer the insights into how well the project is performing financially. Next, we will discuss how the project cost management processes are followed differently in predictive and agile projects. So we will do one comparative analysis here, considering all the processes of project cost management. First process, plan cost management. If it is predictive project, so it is developed at the start of the project and the plan includes detailed procedures for estimating, budgeting, and controlling the cost. Suppose a company is developing a corporate website using the waterfall or predictive approach. So they create a detailed cost management plan before the project starts. They plan to spend, let's say, $100,000 over 6 months, which will include the design, development, and testing of the website. This plan is very rigid with a clearly defined phases and cost for each stages. Suppose for the design, it's a $20,000, and for development, $50,000, and for testing, $30,000. While in agile project, cost management plan is developed iteratively and updated regularly. Plan includes guideline for iterative cost estimation and budgeting for each sprint. So the same company is developing an e-commerce website using the agile methodology. So they create a cost management plan that is flexible. So here, instead of planning cost for the entire project upfront, the company will allocate, suppose, $10,000 for 2 weeks sprint. And the plan evolves with each sprint based on user feedback and the project progress, which will allow flexibility in managing the unforeseen costs. Estimate cost, the next process. In predictive, detailed cost estimates are developed upfront for the entire project. And the estimates are based on well-defined scope and detailed work breakdown structure. It uses techniques like analogous estimation, parametric estimation, and bottom-up estimation. So, the project manager estimates the cost of the entire website project in one go. He may use the bottom-up approach. So, what he will do, he will break down the total cost into detailed estimates for each phase, for design, development, and testing. Come to the agile, cost estimates are developed iteratively for each sprint or iteration. Estimates are based on the user stories, features, or tasks planned for the upcoming iteration. It uses techniques like relative sizing and story points to estimate the efforts and cost. So in agile, cost estimation happens for each sprint. What will be here? The product owner will estimate the cost for the next sprint based on the features prioritized in the backlog. So for the first sprint, suppose he estimate $8,000 for developing the homepage and product catalog. So then the team adjusts these estimates for the future sprint based on the actual progress. Third process is determine budget. In predictive, a comprehensive budget is established at the beginning of the project. The budget includes all project phases and is based on the cost baseline. So like the budget for our website project is already determined early in the process, which is $100,000 for 6 months time. The thing is that the budget, once it is set, this budget is set, it is difficult to adjust without the formal change request. In agile project, budgets are allocated incrementally for each sprint or iteration. The budget is flexible and can be adjusted based on the outcomes of previous iteration. So the company allocated $10,000 per sprint for this project. So the overall budget is not set in stone. So instead, it may evolve as the team progresses through the sprints. So if it will depends on the feedback from the user, from the customer, from the stakeholder, they will suggest any kind of change. Maybe they want to add a new feature. So the budget can be reallocated based on the actual value of the feature. The last process is control cost. Cost performance in predictive is monitored against the cost baseline. They use the earned value management, EVM. So the project manager will compare the planned value PB with the actual cost AC and the earned value EB of the completed task. So if the website design phase takes longer than expected, so cost may increase in this case. So any change to the budget will require the formal approval and the corrective actions are taken for the cost overruns. In agile project, cost performance is measured iteratively with frequent reviews and adjustments. So it is monitored through the burn rate to track the progress. For example, after the second sprint, the team realizes they are overspending. So with the actual cost of the sprint being $12,000 instead of the $10,000. So what will happen? The team will hold a sprint retrospective to assess how to improve resource use in the next sprint. So they can reprioritize or adjust the future features to stay within the budget. Let's discuss each process in detail with input, tools and techniques and output. We will take one project for the reference, installation and commissioning of 20 megawatt solar power plant, and we'll try to relate the processes in its context. So the first process here is plan cost management, and the inputs are project charter, project management plan, EFs and OPAs. Project charter, we know it's the document that officially authorizes the project and provides key information such as high level project objectives, assumptions, and what are the constraints and initial budget allocation. So in our case, for 20 megawatt solar power plant project, the project charter might state that the project must be completed within a, let's say, $20 million budget, which will provide a reference point for cost planning. Project management plan. Specifically, the scope and schedule management plans help integrate the cost planning. Other than these both, the risk management plan also provides the approach for identifying, analyzing, and monitoring the risk. Risk management plan provides processes and controls that will impact the cost estimation and its management. EEF, enterprise environmental factors. So, like the organizational culture and structure, the way an organization operates, its internal processes and its hierarchy can shape how the costs are managed. Like in a hierarchical organization, it may require more approval layers, which will impact how quickly the financial decisions are made. On the other hand, a more flexible organization may streamline the cost management. Market condition, the EF, the availability and pricing of resources, services, and equipment in local and global market will definitely affect the cost planning. Commercial information. If you have access to the databases that provide the standard rates of labor, materials, and equipment, it will help in developing the accurate cost estimates. PMIS, Project Management System. Software tools that manage cost, it can offer different approaches for tracking the expenses, estimating the cost, and managing the project budget. Another EF could be productivity differences. So productivity levels can vary between regions or countries due to the different skill set, labor, efficiency, and the technology. So this variation can have a significant impact on the project cost. And the currency exchange rate, another EF. So for project which involve cost across multiple countries, so the fluctuation in currency exchange rates will definitely influence the total cost. OPAs, inputs, internal guidelines, historical data, and lessons learned are the OPAs, which will help for the plan cost management. So if let's say the organization has completed similar solar project in past, so OPAs will provide benchmark for planning the cost. Tools and techniques. Expert judgment. We know this tool and technique. Expert who have worked on similar project in the past, they can offer valuable insight into the potential cost, any challenges and risk. So by using historical data from past projects, these experts can predict the cost for the current project more accurately. Data analysis. We use the alternative analysis to explore the different options for completing the project activities in the most cost-effective way. So this technique helps by evaluating various alternatives, allowing the project teams to make the informed decisions about how best to allocate the financial resources. So for example, in case of project funding, we have various options like self-funding. The project is financed using the organization's own resources, or funding with equity. The organization is inviting the investors, providing capital in exchange for the ownership shares, or the funding with debt. Organization is approaching the banks for loan. Another alternative analysis can be done in make or buy decision, whether we are producing the things in-house or we are buying from the suppliers. So producing resources internally can give more control over quality and cost, but at the same time, it requires time and investment in infrastructure and skills. Another example could be renting. In our solar power plant project, are we renting the cranes or excavators for the installation of solar power plant, or we are buying those equipment? Meetings, it is another powerful tool. So regular discussion with stakeholders, financial team, project team will give the valuable inputs for the plan cost management. So output we are getting from this process is cost management plan. It is a document that outlines how the costs will be managed, estimated, and controlled throughout the project. So next process is estimate cost. The inputs are project management plan, project document, EEFs, and OPAs. Project management plan. So the cost management plan, one of its subsidiary which we got here, will be one of the input, and the scope baseline. These will provide the guidance on how to estimate the cost. Another input will be the quality management plan, which will ensure that the project team allocates enough budget for achieving the desired quality standards and avoid cost overruns due to unplanned quality related expenses. Project documents. So various project documents provide valuable inputs to ensure the accuracy and comprehensiveness of cost planning, like lessons learned register. So this document records the insights from earlier phases of the project or from the past projects, especially related to the cost estimation. So it will give the input. Project schedule. Project schedule details when resources will be used and how long the activities will take to complete, and when project tasks are expected to occur. So this all information is crucial for the cost management, because the duration of resource usage, whether it is manpower or equipment rental, will directly impact the cost. Resource requirements, another project document. So resource requirement will provide details on the types and quantities of the resources, human, equipment, material needed for the each work package or activity. Risk register, it will identify the potential risks that could affect the project cost and their associated risk responses. EFs and OPAs. So factors like the current market price of our solar panels, or tariffs, or imported equipment. So it all will affect the cost estimate. Organizational process assets. So historical data from similar projects will help improving the accuracy of estimates. Tools and techniques. So expert judgment. Solar energy experts can provide guidance on installation cost and the prices of specialized equipment. Analogous estimating. Analogous estimating pulls the data from past projects that had the similar characteristic to the current project. For example, if the company completed a similar solar power plant installation last year, so the cost data from the project can be used to estimate the cost for this new project. So this will help in getting a rough estimate early in the project, even if the detailed information isn't available yet. So this technique is useful for developing initial budgets or cost baselines. Parametric estimation. Parametric estimation is a cost estimation technique that uses the statistical data and relationship between variables to forecast the project cost. So, if let's say historical data shows that the average cost per installed megawatt is $1.2 million, let's suppose. So then for a 20 megawatt power plant installation, the initial estimate would be around $24 million. So that's how it works. Bottom-up estimating. This is a technique that provides detailed cost estimates by calculating the cost of each individual work package or activity and then rolling them up into a total project estimate. So we estimate cost for the individual tasks like purchasing the inverters and assembling mounting structure. Then we aggregate them for the total. 3-point estimating. So estimating cost using the 3 points: optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely scenario for uncertain components, like for the new technologies in the project. Data analysis. So alternative analysis we use. So here alternative analysis helps project managers explore the multiple approaches to manage the cost and optimize the resource use, ensuring the cost efficiency. Reserve analysis. It is used to determine the amount of contingency reserve. We call it additional budget required to cover known unknown risk, like potential rework or delays. So by allocating contingency reserve, the project managers prepare for uncertainties and avoid the cost overruns. So these reserves provide a buffer for unexpected expenses and ensure the project can still meet its objectives within the budget. Cost of quality. What it means? It refers the cost associated with ensuring that the project meets quality standards. So this includes both the cost of conformance, what it means, preventive actions, what we are taking to maintain the quality, testing, training, and the cost of non-conformance means rework if anything happened, defects, delays. So in the plan cost management process, analyzing the cost of quality helps in determining whether investing more upfront in quality assurance will save money in the long term by preventing defects and reducing the rework. So for example, in the solar power plant project, investing in high quality installation procedures and materials might reduce the risk of future breakdowns or performance issues. So this investment through higher upfront will reduce the long-term operational cost and maintenance efforts. PMIS. PMIS includes tools like spreadsheet and cost estimating software that assist in performing detailed calculations for project cost. So these tools enable project managers to break down the cost by category like labor, material, equipment, and analyze them with precision. Decision making, another tool. Voting is the most popular technique of decision making. In a team meeting for our project, a solar power plant project, so members can vote on the best method to estimate the cost for various project components, like using historical data or parametric estimates. So this involvement helps the team reach a consensus and agree on a unified approach. Output. What we are getting output of this process is cost estimates. So cost estimates will provide the quantitative assessment of the expected cost required to complete the project work. So which will include the direct cost, what it means, the cost directly associated with resources like labor, materials, and equipment. And what will be the indirect cost, like overhead cost, that may not be directly attributed to specific project activities, but they are necessary for the project completion. Contingency reserve, we spoke about, amount set aside to address the identified risk. And the management reserve, funds allocated for unforeseen project work or risk not identified during the planning phase. Next output is basis of estimates, which includes the detailed supporting documents that provides clarity on how the cost estimates were derived. So like documentation of the basis of the estimates, how the cost estimates were calculated, assumptions and constraints. If there are any assumptions made during estimation and constraints identified that could affect the cost, or any risk considered during the estimation process which may impact the cost. So this all will come under the basis of estimates. Project document updates. So the estimate cost process will definitely lead to update in the various project documents. Assumption log. So this log captures a new assumptions which were made during the estimation process. Lessons learned register. The register documents techniques or approaches that were effective in developing the cost estimates. Risk register. So the risk register may be updated to include the chosen risk response that directly impact the cost estimates. Next process is determine budget. So here the inputs are project management plan, project documents, business document, agreements, EFs and OPAs. Project management plan. The component of project management plan, especially cost management plan, resource management plan, and scope baselines are input for this process. The cost management plan outlines how the project cost will be structured, managed, and controlled throughout the project. And the resource management plan contains detailed information on resource cost like manpower rates, material cost, travel expenses, and other resource related financial data. And the scope baseline, it consists of the project scope statement and work breakdown structure and related WBS dictionary, which provides the foundation for estimating the cost by detailing all project work, which helps ensure that no components are missed during the cost estimation. Project documents like cost estimates, basis of estimates, the output of previous process, project schedule, and risk registers are the crucial inputs for determining the budget. Business documents, we know the business case and benefit management plan. The business case outlines the project's purpose, including its financial goals, and defines the project's success criteria like return of investment, ROI, what is the payback period, and the other financial performance measures. If we talk about benefit management plan, the other business document, it details the target benefits of the project, which can include in the financial metrics like NPV, net present value, the time frame for realizing those benefits, and other performance indicators. So it helps in defining the budget by considering the cost required to achieve the planned benefits within the desired time frame. Agreements, another input. So agreements or contracts define the cost and terms by any product, service, or deliverable that are being purchased from external vendors. EFs and OPAs. Come to the tools and techniques. Expert judgment, again, it's about taking views of experts in particular field. We have spoken in detail about this technique in previous processes. Cost aggregation. In this technique, the cost estimates are consolidated at various levels. The lowest level of project scope management is work package. So what we do, the cost estimates for individual work packages are calculated, including the manpower cost, material cost, equipment cost, or any other resources needed to complete each work package. So next level is the control account level aggregation. So after aggregating work package costs, these are then rolled up to the higher level, which we call control accounts or management point in the WBS, where the performance is measured. Then finally come to the project level budget. So the aggregated cost from the work package and control accounts are further summarized into the total project budget. Here we include the contingency reserves for the known risk and the management reserve for unforeseen events, ensuring a more resilient financial plan. Data analysis. We use reserve analysis. Reserve analysis focuses on setting aside a portion of the project budget as management reserves. So these reserves are allocated to address unforeseen events, or we call unknown unknowns, that are not included in the cost baseline. Historical information review. Reviewing the historical information can assist in developing the parametric estimates or analogous estimates. Funding limit reconciliation. This technique used in the determined budget process to ensure that the project's planned expenditures align with the available or committed funds at any given time. So the technique ensures that the project cash flow and spending patterns are aligned with the funding limits set by the organization or stakeholders. So if a variance between the funding limits and planned expenditures occur, so the project manager may need to reschedule certain activities or expenditure to align with the funding. So by adjusting the timing of certain activities, project managers can spread out expenses to match the organization's funding cycle. This ensures the project remains financially viable and avoids exceeding available funds at any given time period. Financing. Financing refers to acquiring external funding for the project, especially for large scale or long term projects like infrastructure, industrial, or public services project. So the cost of financing, like if we are financing from outside, so interest rate or loans or bond repayment must be included in the overall project budget. Come to the output of this process. So the cost baseline is a key output of the determined budget process. It is approved version of the time phased project budget. What it means? It means it breaks down the project budget over time based on the planned work and schedule. And this excludes the management reserves, which are funds set aside for unforeseen work or risk that have not yet occurred. Project funding requirements. So these are derived from the cost baseline, which includes the projected expenditures and anticipated liabilities. These requirements outline the total funds needed for the project, including both the cost baseline and management reserves. Project document updates. So the project document like cost estimates will be updated to reflect any additional or refined information regarding the project's activity cost. Project schedule. It will be adjusted to incorporate the estimated cost for each activity, aligning them with the schedule. And risk register will be updated to capture new risk identified during budgeting, which will ensure that these risks are managed through the project's risk management processes. Control cost process. This is the last process. So inputs here are project management plan, project documents, project funding requirements, work performance data, and OPAs. So project management plan, the components like cost management plan, cost baseline, and the performance measurement baselines will work as an input here. Project documents, the lessons learned register. The lessons learned earlier in the project can be applied to later phases in the project to improve the cost control. Project funding requirement. So this is the output of previous project. So we can use as an input of control cost here. Work performance data. It contains the data on project status, like which costs have been authorized, incurred, invoiced, and paid, the detailed data. And OPAs, organizational process assets. Tools and techniques, the expert judgment, and the data analysis. So here we use the different data analysis techniques like earned value analysis, a technique used to measure the project performance by comparing the amount of work actually completed against the planned budget and schedule. Variance analysis. So it compares the actual project performance, mainly cost and schedule, to the baselines, which identify variances and their causes, like the cost variance or schedule variance. Trend analysis. So it identifies patterns or trend in cost performance by using the historical data which we have, enabling predictions about the future performance. Forecasting. So techniques like estimate at completion, we call it EAC, and estimate to complete, ETC. These are used to forecast the future cost based on the current performance. To complete performance index, TCPI. So a performance metric that shows the efficiency required to meet the project budget by comparing the remaining work and funds. So this is the to complete performance index. PMIS, software tools used for tracking cost, generating reports, and analyzing the cost performance data. Outputs are the work performance information, cost forecast, change requests, project management plan updates, and project document updates. Work performance information includes the information on cost variances, cost performance index, CPI, and the other key cost performance metrics which are used to analyze the project health. Cost forecast, updated projection for cost, including the estimate at completion, EAC, based on the actual cost performance. Change request to update the cost baseline if significant deviations or changes are identified during this process. Project management plan updates to the cost management plan or cost baseline based on changes approved through the change control process. Project document updates. So updates to the document like the risk register, cost estimates, and the project schedule to reflect the new information or changes in the cost performance. OPAs update, organizational process assets. So updates to the lessons learned and the financial control procedures based on the project cost control outcomes. So that's all for today. We have achieved one more milestone in our project management journey. Before we wrap up, I would request you to kindly show your support by liking and subscribing to ProjexCellence ProDigy channel. Your engagement means a lot to me. Namaste, goodbye, Sampai Jumpa.